was trying to think, there are several ways to leave something behind during your lifetime, and you know, something for the future. One is to have children, obviously. That's a simple way of...
Without children, you don't have a future.
That's one way of
I
propagating.
didn't realize that was simple.
Thank you. It's a fine line.
That's one type of DNA that you can propagate to the future, and then there is the possibility of you know, having structures. You know, people build monuments, and stuff. Or having you know, propagating your academic DNA by writing papers, which is actually the most fun of all possibilities.
It's also the greenest.
So in terms of academic DNA, if I was thinking, you know, what would I like, how would I characterize the academic DNA that I'm trying to propagate to future generations? And that is basically to think differently about problems. Just to give you two examples, a few minutes ago, there was a person in my office, a former student of mine named Tony Tan, and he's now in the business world. He works with Bill Gates, and he tries to solve the energy problem in the future with some innovative method. Very different from what I'm doing. So he's in the business world. He's here in Boston trying to raise some funds for his company.
So he came to you.
No, he didn't come to raise the funds. We just met. And another example is Marion, who will speak later. She's over there. I trained her as a theorist. And what you will hear, she will speak about her experience as an observer at the South Pole. And that is another example of someone doing and I'm very proud of people that I train that end up doing things that are very different than I do. And so that I would define as my academic DNA, to think differently about a problem. Just to give you an example, yesterday we heard an ITC colloquium, and in that colloquium it was said, you know, we would like to characterize the atmospheres of planets, and then they looked at the transit spectroscopy, and then they saw no features, no spectral features. And that implies that there must be a haze. But the immediate thought that I had was, what about the atmosphere? Maybe it implies that there is no atmosphere. Because if you have no spectral features, and it's not just in one case, but in many cases, it's possible that you don't have an atmosphere. So that's the kind of thinking that I would like to encourage with people that work with me, that you shouldn't accept what people tell you. You should just think about it critically and think differently about the problem. And very often the mainstream is not thinking outside the box. And so having my students or postdocs do things that are very different than I do is very important for me. Now, the only risk that I see for this kind of activity that I do for the future would be if instead of being in the trenches and you know, doing the actual work associated with science, that there will be a call for me to do some administrative, higher level work. And that's the only risk, and so far so good. So, but there is a risk of that. But otherwise, I must say that this is the most enjoyable thing that makes me very happy every morning to work with young people that are open-minded. And what we're celebrating is not my papers, it's actually our papers. And, you know, there couldn't have been a better, a more fulfilling job, as far as I'm concerned, than working with young people on creative projects. And I still get a kick from that. And that
Did you say kick or cake?
Kick is both. And as you know, I have also administrative duties, but the way I see that is more of a service to help younger people fulfill themselves. And it's not so much, I mean, there is nothing else to it. So creating an environment that allows everyone to succeed, and it's very diverse. So that's all. So that's our celebration, it's not mine. And I would like everyone to enjoy the cake, which includes a lot of carbs.
No.
I cannot-
No sugar.
Now,
No carbs, no calories.
Mark,
No
would
cake.
would you like to say a few words about what the icing on the cake is?
The icing on the cake is a 600 for Avi.
Not for me, for everyone.
The 600 on the cake is for all of the papers you've written. There's a comet on the cake to show bright light. And also, if you notice, the chocolate on the cake is very, very wavy. We think it must be gravitational waves. Something along these lines going through there. They're very, very creative at the bakery. So.
Okay. Oh, and everyone is welcome to stay for Marion's talk. She will describe the South Pole experience, and she mentioned 3 items that.
I did not write that email.
Oh, so was it Mark? Okay.
It was here.
So the first item that has to do with having only a few minutes of shower time per week.
Yeah. 4.
4 minutes. Okay. The second item was.
See, I'm already remediating that situation.
The second item was being in an enclosed structure with the PI of the project for a long period of time. Was that the second item?
Again, I did not write that.
Okay. And the third item was what was it? The smallest
The smallest living organism within several miles is a grad student.
Right. Now the question is, which one do you find most intimidating among the 3 items? Do people have a favorite?
First one.
Exactly.
Yeah.
For me, the first one, the shower time, because I get all my ideas during the shower usually. So having just 2 minutes, a few minutes a week. That's fine.
I would say it's a combination of the first 2, right? Because very little shower time and you're in a closed space with your advisor.
Well, what about the fact that you can't really go outside and enjoy? I mean, you have to stay enclosed.
You can go outside.
Uh-huh.
You want to. You just have to spend 10 minutes layering up first.